yoga. So go find yourself a chair. Any chair will do. Like, well, not any chair. Try to have like a four-pointed solid chair that doesn't roll, like a dining room chair or a folding chair or kitchen table chair kind of chair. So I'll give you a moment to go find a chair for our practice. Now, one of the reasons why one might want to do chair yoga, there's lots of reasons, not just because, you're injured and you can't bear weight on your foot or something like that. But of course, if you have an injury that you really need to take it easy for one reason or another, doing poses in the chair can be very helpful. But more importantly, a lot of times when we do postures in a chair, because we're taking away some of the weight bearing out of our legs and our joints, we can really start to feel into the action of the pose a little bit more fully. It creates a little bit more of a closed chain. So what I mean by that is, there's open chain and closed chain. So an open chain would be something like this, where you're doing Ardha Chandrasana and your leg is up there in the air. And so that's an open chain. Your other foot doesn't have feedback from a source of contact. Whereas a closed chain is when like both feet are on the ground, like Veerabhadrasana or something like that, where you have a closed chain of contact on the ground. And a chair is yet another point of contact that gives us this sense of a closed chain where we have feedback loops moving through the body. So they're good, not just for injury, not just for when you need a day where you're not, working as hard, because it is hard to work with standing poses in a chair. It's not easy effort-wise. It's full of effort, but it's just different. So hopefully now you have a chair. So let's go ahead and sit up straight and tall and take a moment to close your eyes and just drop in. So here we are on this beautiful Monday morning. If you're here, if you've been looking outside, it's this blanket of a sky, this closed down sky upon us of gray. We feel a very supportive moisture in the air. So let's enjoy the gift that the snow today will bring, feeding the spring life that's just about to erupt. And how does this kind of weather feed you? Is there a sense of watering on the inside that can happen on a day like today? So drop your weight, sink into the support that you're sitting on. And feel the spine become spacious and free. Have just the teeniest bit of effort in the back body where the chest is open and broad. The breath is full and deep. Rest into your eyes. Rest into the skull bones. And especially for whatever reason, if your breath has been shallow, if you haven't had a lot of good deep breathing lately, let's take a moment to feel the expansiveness, not just of your rib cage, but really your full torso, your pelvic floor, your belly, your kidney area, your full 360 of your ribs. Allow your neck and shoulders to stay a little quiet as you breathe some good deep breaths. So we're not trying to yank upward in the breath, we're trying to expand in all directions. And now to facilitate a little bit more mobility in our rib cage, for breathing, let's just start with a little bit of alternate nostril breathing. So right thumb on right nostril, high up on your nostril. We're going to breathe in through the left. Then gently close the left nostril with your ring finger and breathe out through the right. So always we're going out breath, in breath through the same nostril, and then switch sides. So out, in, and switch. Nice and slow. Try to have that alignment in the spine, the sense of freedom in the torso. A slight bow is okay. Can you feel that you're not pressing hard on your septum in the middle of your nose? Just light enough where just enough where you close off the pathway of breath, but not pushing. Enjoy the chambers of the sinuses. Enjoy the little extra stimulation on your diaphragm. Keep the shoulders as relaxed as you can. Can you feel the centering of this practice? And when you breathe out through your left, whenever that comes, that'll be the completion of your practice. And release your hand down when that happens. When it does, just take a moment to enjoy a full, beautiful breath, all the chambers of your sinuses open. Let's place the hands together at the heart and create an intention. What do you need today? How can your practice support you? And let's relax the hands. And let's come onto our back. So, Christine, just do what you can do. Okay. So, if it's hard to get up and down off the floor, just ask questions if you need some guidance with modifying. Okay. Let's go ahead and find our way. Okay. So, reach into the extension of the body. So, lying flat, stretch your arms overhead, stretch right side, stretch left side. Just come into this beautiful awakening of the body. Enjoy. As you come home inside yourself and have the luxury of this time to do our practice, let's have some gratitude. And then bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Just come into a state of ease across your brain, your spine, all the way into your pelvis. All that good breathing we did, let's not waste it. Let's keep some good solid breaths moving through our body. Let's circle the knees one direction. And then we'll circle the other direction. And then let's open the knees up and bring the knees back together again. Okay, just finding our way into some range of motion in our femur bones, in our hip joints. And then right knee comes into the chest, left leg stretches long on the floor, and roll your ankles, move your feet, wiggle your toes, get some aliveness going on and all the muscles that surround your shins, the outside of your shins, your ankle bones. Let's change sides, left knee and right leg long on the floor, toes wiggle, feet move around. Just enjoy the simplicity of beginning our practice. A good squeeze in the knee. All right, and then relax that knee, stretch your limbs wide, open your body out, wiggle fingers and toes. Exhale, knees into your chest, chin comes up. Okay, expand open. Exhale, around the spine. One more time. Expand, feel a little back bend here. Exhale, round in. Release your head down onto the ground. Roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So as we start our off the ground bit of our practice here, just notice your spine as you start to move through some cat-cows. You can be very gentle at first, arching the back, rounding the spine, taking your time. Full breaths here. And then feel free to move the spine around. You can wag your tail. You can move your shoulders about. You can roll around in any way that feels good. And then settle back towards child's pose. Knees deeply flexed as much as you can get. Hips down toward the heels. Walk the hands out in front of you and start to stretch your shoulders a little bit. Walk the hands over to one side of your mat, opening the rib cage up. Finding breath, let the neck relax, feel the base of your skull soften. Once again, take advantage of all that room to breathe. Okay, coming back to center, over to the other side. Drop some weight in your sit bones. Feel the awakening of the rib cage. Keep the neck as relaxed as you can. Let the skin on your face melt a little bit. Soften anywhere you have access. Okay, coming back to center, all fours again. Move your spine around any way you want to move your spine. And then a twist. Inhale, left arm up to the sky. Exhale, slide that shoulder down. Gaze toward the floor. See if you can feel the breath touch into the back ribs. Expand where the ribs meet the vertebrae. Inhale, reach that arm all the way back up and down onto the ground. Second side, big breath. Shoulder comes down. Full breathing here. Feel the breath touch the back of your body as much as you can. Melt the skull. Inhale, arm coming back up, hand down. And let's come to dog pose. So always, if you're, working with some different ranges of motion in your body, you can also do a dog pose against a wall or a piece of furniture. If you're not weight bearing on hands, or if your shoulder's a little messy today, or whatever's going on in your spine, take your thigh bones back, feel the length of your spine, root into hands and feet, keep the neck as soft and neutral as you can. Feel the thigh bones lift up and back, ground 4 corners of your hands, ground 2 corners of your feet, so spread across the toes if you're in dog pose. And then let's walk our feet forward, come into Uttanasana. Fold in half, feet hip width apart, relax, melt, soften the skull. Bend your knees a lot so that your spine isn't what's bending. So you want to really feel the root of the flexion happen at the head of the femur bone, so your spine can stay really elongated. Halfway lift here, you can put your hands on blocks or your legs. Lift your sit bones, stretch into the 4 corners of your feet, ground them into the earth, and then lift through the arches. So find that sense of rooting down and lifting up simultaneously. Thigh bones move back, so feel the backs of your knees stretch. This is different than just slamming your knees back. Open up the back of the knees, lift the sit bones, stretch into the feet. And then exhale and relax, bend the knees again, rise up, okay? Finding your way upward, reach the arms to the sky, lean back a little bit if it feels nice to do so. Open the chest, exhale, and swing the arms around. Shake out the hands. Okay. We do so much with our hands. Everybody does so much with their hands these days. Let's do a couple of nerve glides to open up the hands and the shoulders and the arms. Press your palms toward walls at your sides. Fingertips up toward the sky. Shoulder blades down. Spread across your collarbones. Lift one ear high. And then down, and the other ear high. And then down. Keep your shoulder blades down the back. Back and forth. Feel that little nervy feeling down your arms. Okay. And release. Shake out your hands again. Big breaths, open chest, lean back, big cactus arms, hug the shoulder blades. Exhale and float forward. Let the neck be soft and relaxed. Dangle it as best as you can. Halfway lift, the spine is growing. Exhale and melt back down. Step your left foot back, your right foot's coming forward. If you want to put your hands on blocks, that's fine. Open the chest. And let's go back and forth, straightening the front leg and bending the front knee. So there's no rules as far as how deep you need to go. In this posture, we're just trying to open the hip flexors of the back leg and the hamstring of the front leg while moving with breath, just getting some flow in your body. All right. Walk your back foot forward, fold in half, switch sides, other foot back. Left foot is now forward, ground through the four corners of your foot. Let's open the hip flexors of that back leg. Let's start to bend and straighten. Breathing well. All right. Put your hands onto the ground and come back to a plank. And once again, if for some reason you're not weight bearing, you can always do a plank against a wall. You can walk your feet back a little bit and your hands forward so that you're a little bit on an angle. Try not to collapse. You still want to have that integration. So there's lots of ways to keep your spine in a good long elongated place and not have so much burden of weight bearing if that's something your body needs. All right, so hold yourself steady. Start to engage your core. And then we're going to put our knees down onto the ground and find our way to the floor. Roll the shoulders a few times. Get used to that mobility. And inhale and rise up to a cobra. Exhale and melt back down. One more time. All right, come back down. Flip over onto your back for a moment. This is just a little bit of waking up of the core. Most of you have done this before. It's very gentle, but I think it's very safe for the spine. It's a great way to just get the core of you to kind of come online to support ourselves. So first, just put a block between your thighs and just have a gentle hug of the block. You don't have to vice grip the block, but just feel how moving some strength into the inner thigh muscles can turn on the pelvic floor just a little bit. So even though the transverse abdominis, your deepest abdominal muscle that's outside of your organs, that holds your organs in and helps stabilize your spine, even though that doesn't extend down to the pelvic floor, it's very relatable with the pelvic floor muscles. So let's relax the block a little bit. Relax the legs rather, and then hug the block a little bit. Okay, so very simple. Spine is nice and elongated on the floor, neutral. And so some gentle hugging and some releasing. So just feel into the engagement of the pelvic floor. Imagine not only, that you're hugging in toward the block, but that you're turning a flashlight on from the pelvic floor up through your spine. So you start to feel that the core and the pelvic floor are relatable to each other. How's your breath? Are you holding your breath? All right, so let's release that. Very simple. And now I think most of you have done this. I call this teacups. So we're going to put a teacup on our left knee, like fine china teacup, so you don't want to spill it. So ground your left femur bone deep into the hip joint. And already you can start to feel your psoas on that side and your TA start to stabilize you. And then we're going to slowly open the right knee out to the side and bring the right knee back in. So just go as far as your body is able to hold and as slow as your body likes to go. And then switch the teacup to the other side. So grounding right knee into right hip joint. So we're stabilizing the right leg, and then we're opening up the left knee out to the side and bringing it back in. So
whatever leg the teacup is on, that's our stability, that's our ground, that's our closed chain. I mean, this is actually an open chain exercise because our knee's moving, but can you feel that when you have points of contact with the ground where the knee can root into the earth through your femur bone, there's a lot of stability that can be found there versus if we didn't have our pelvis on the ground. So let's just enjoy that extra bit of feedback as you switch between moving your left and your right. Now, are you breathing? Check in with your neck, make sure you're not taking a lot of strain. And then we're going to finish whenever you get to the teacup being on your right knee and your left leg opening. That's the side we're going to finish on. And once you get to that, put the block between your thighs again. If you want to stay on the floor, you can stay on the floor. If you feel a need or desire for a bridge pose, then rise up toward a bridge. All the while, gentle hugging of the block. So we're not vice gripping. You don't want your inner thighs to take over. We want the inner thighs to light up the pelvic floor. Ground through four corners of feet, no matter what, whether you're on the ground or pelvis is up in the air. All right. And then if you're up, lower your pelvis down. And we're going to take that block out of there, come rolling over onto your side, and come up onto your hands and your knees. Okay, so move the spine around. Your transverse abdominis travels all the way around. It's your corset muscle, travels from the back all the way around to the front. So, sometimes doing that exercise, you can feel a little fatigued even in the back of your body. And that's not a bad thing. You're really engaging the core in a 360 fashion. Okay, we're going to come up to stand. So you can move through dog pose if you want, or you can just find your way up comfortably, whatever feels good. And then we're going to grab our chair. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is twist. So if you're not twisting, then we're not going to do a twist deeply here, but sit sideways on your chair. So my legs are around the right side of the chair, so the back of the chair is on my right side. So maybe I should switch that so I look like a mirror to you. Okay, so you're going to turn to the right to grab onto the back of your chair. Now, I used to teach to keep your knees really stable, where your knees and your feet and your hips are all lined up. And this is not wrong to do this, but what it does is it creates the twist really just solely in your thoracic spine. So let's do it both ways so you can feel the difference. So when you do this, engage your core. We're going to put our hands on the back of the chair. And I want you to turn your torso to the right, but counter and turn your navel to the left. And this will help not just have your thoracic spine have to do all the work to try to twist. You get to have a feeling of wringing out through the core of you, which will turn on a lot of these muscles. So feet, knees, and hips are lined up with each other. Find your breath. Only go as far. This pose is not a very deep pose if we keep our knees in line with each other. If you're having trouble doing that, stick a block between your knees. That can be a very helpful tool. So we're not pushing too far. We're countering with the core. Okay, relax. And now just turn yourself to the other side. So I'll show myself from the back. I have my knee block between my knees. My feet, my knees, and my hips are stacked so that everything's parallel. We're not letting the knees go offline. Hands on the chair. We're countering the twist. So we don't want to twist too far while stabilizing the pelvis like this. So we need the support of our core to make sure we're not putting too much pressure on our thoracic spine. So navel turns to the right as we twist to the left. So feel that you're kind of going like a spot, if you're wringing out a rag, you're actually going in two opposite directions. So that's the feeling you want. Maintain your breath. Okay, and then come back around, get rid of the block. Okay, and now allow your knees to go offline. This used to be such a taboo thing in yoga, but much more information is out there now around the SI joint and how moving the knees apart from each other or offline from each other is not a bad thing to do. As a matter of fact, it's quite healthy for your SI joints to not get stuck in one place. So allow your knees to go offline. So if you're going to the right, chances are your left knee is going to be forward of your right knee. And just go where it's comfortable for you. So now our pelvis is actually turning with our spine. And you don't have to worry so much about that counter pose now because we're not trying to keep the pelvis rooted and stable. We're allowing it to move. So now the twist is all going in the same direction like a spiral instead of countering like ringing a rat. All right, so open the breath. Breathe. Shoulders down. Notice if there's more ease across your SI joints twisting this way. Okay. All right, and then come back to center. Scooch to the other side, so no block between the knees this time because we want our legs to go offline from each other. As we turn left, we're going to have the right knee probably go forward of the left knee. So let the pelvis move a little bit and open yourself up into the twist. For all twists, we're not pushing so hard. We're not using the arms as so much leverage to deepen the twist. They're just there for a placeholder. And come back to center. We're going to still be sitting on the side of our chairs. Christine, now you can rejoin us, right? So from here, we're going to take the right leg forward and we're going to stretch the left leg back like a lunge. So if the chair is the wrong height for you, let's say you're too tall, you can put a blanket on top of the chair to lift up. Let's say you're too short, you can put a block underneath your foot in the front if you need some extra height. Okay, so adjust things. And now you decide. So we're opening up the hip flexors of the back leg. It's very easy to have a lot of compression in the lumbar spine. Perhaps you want to lean forward a little bit in this pose to relieve your back. Perhaps you want to lift your arms up in the air to open up into a bigger back bend. So find your way, breathing deeply. Okay, and then if you're able to twist, and remember, the back leg can straighten, but the back knee can also bend a little bit. So you do you, and we're going to very gently here, very gently twist to the side. Find the breath. Hug to the midline with your inner thighs. See if you can have a little bit of that twist, counter twist. So the core is engaged. And then relax and come out of the pose. Put your knees together. And then we're just going to turn to the other side. So you can just turn backwards. I moved my chair just so I can still face the camera so you can see me. So now our left leg is going to be in front and our right leg is going to be in the back. Now this is a very deep lunge for many people. So check in with your lumbar spine. It might feel nice to lean forward a little bit here. It might be nice to bend the back knee a little bit here. Put padding under the pelvis, put padding under the foot, whatever you need to make the chair the right height for you. Find the breath and then decide, am I stable enough to have my arms overhead? Or would I like to put my hands on the chair and lean forward a little bit more? So you do you. Try not to lean into the lumbar spine. See if you can drop the tailbone, lift the pubic bone, soften the back knee a little bit if you feel like it's hard to do this. Finding the breath, ground into your feet. And then we're going to twist and be so gentle. This is actually quite a big twist to hold the back of a chair. So drop the shoulders. We're not using the chair as leverage. They're just a placeholder. Hug to the inner thighs, to the midline. Find the breath. All right, and then come back to center. And we're going to turn and sit normally on the chair here. Okay, so finding the breath, we're going to come to the very front edge of the chair. and lengthen forward. All right, so just fold over your knees a little bit. Keep the spine long, try not to round the back. All right, now put a block between your thighs. If you liked the feeling of letting your inner thighs kind of help you find the pelvic floor. Okay, so we're gonna rise up. So this is a chair pose that's very different. We're not having a lot of energy through our legs now, but you can feel the work of what the spine needs to do in chair pose when we're not having to weight bear so much in our legs. Okay, so notice, what is your low back doing? Do you want to have a little bit more anterior tilt of the pelvis? Do you need a little more posterior tilt? So feel the feedback from the chair where you are on your sit bones so you can find that neutral spine. The arms do not have to go up overhead. They can go anywhere you want them to be. Gentle hug of the block. So use the pelvic floor to lift the spine. Find the breath, neck is soft, ground through the feet. And then relax and melt. If you're having trouble with your knees, this is a great way to do standing poses. If doing some squatty things with your knees is problematic on any given day, this is a nice way to move about your practice. We're going to come into Parsvokanasana first. So be on the very front edge of your chair. Once again, get the chair height to be proper for you. You can always put if you're tiny in your height, you might need a block underneath your foot. So you figure it out what it is that you need. All right, and then we're going to find our way. So try not to push the back leg open. Remember, our goal here is not necessarily to have our pelvis facing the front of the chair. Let your pelvis turn a little bit toward your front knee until you feel like, oh, now my pelvis feels okay. I'm not in a tug of war. I'm not trying to break a wishbone apart. You have a sense of stability. Okay, so find the legs first and then drop the elbow onto a knee or hand onto a block and extend the arm overhead. So if you're resting the spine a little bit more, you can keep the hand at your hip. If you're resting your shoulder, there's always ways to modify everything. Shoulder blades down the back, open up through the full side of your body. Ground four corners of your feet like you're trying not to use the chair so much. Breathing well. So it's a great way to work with opening up the hip flexor of the back leg while still supporting the pelvis. Okay, let's come out of there. We're just going to do some lefty-righty today. So, I'm on a folding chair that's got the back kind of knocked out of it. So if you're on a really hard chair like this, it might behoove you to get something underneath you so you have a little extra padding. So you do you. It really mostly depends on your height. Okay, so Parsvokanasana. Remember, you can have your hand on a block. This might be a really nice time to try putting your hand on a block instead of your elbow on your knee, to just experiment with what that might feel like. And find your way into the pose. So because we are not weight bearing so much through our legs, work with the alignment. See if you can spin the jar lid of your front foot. So toes turn out, heel turns in. Feel the alignment of knee over your ankle and in line with your sit bone. Let the pelvis turn any bit that helps you find ease through your SI joints. And then lengthen through that back leg and feel the extension through your body. Full breaths here. Ground your feet. So imagine you're not trying to bear all your weight on the chair. Come back up. Back to neutral for a moment. Perhaps hands on knees and a little cat-cow between. Maybe you want to lean forward. See what your body likes to do. Okay, and then we're going to open up to the second side again for Veerabhadrasana. Now, as we come into this posture, notice if your back leg wants to move forward, and that's okay. So you do not have to be heel to arch aligned with your feet. You can be heel to heel aligned or even wider than that if that's what your pelvis needs for stability and comfort. Allow your pelvis to turn whatever place it goes. So, our goal is to be as open as we can be. So you don't want to just, like turn all the way, but you don't want to stress your SI joints and your pelvis so much. Once you have your pelvis in place, ground your feet and then figure out, where is my chest? Put your arms where your chest is instead of necessarily in line with your mat. Drop the shoulders, ground four corners of feet. So can you tell that even though we're not weight bearing, so the knee is not bearing as much of the pose, there's a lot of work in the outer hips to do this posture. Keep relaxing the shoulders. You can always put your arms in a different place if you need to. Finding the breath. Try to center yourself over both sit bones. Notice if you lean into your front leg. Okay, and then relax. I always feel like it's kind of important to just melt a little bit in between. You can bounce through your feet. This is opens up the hips. These poses, because they're closed chain on the pelvis, they open up the pelvis and a little bit more than our typical standing poses do. So notice if you're feeling that. Align your legs anywhere you want to be. So in order for the back leg, if you're ending up like this where your leg is bent, walk your foot forward, even off the mat a little bit until you feel like you can straighten that leg. Okay, so this shows you that your heels your back arch and front heel do not have to be your line. Okay, you can be wherever you are. Okay, now open up through your chest, ease across your pelvis, ease across your sacrum, and then work with the outer hip muscles. See if you can feel all the little muscles that help you rotate your femur bones. Open up, maybe your arms come out to the sides, maybe your hands are staying close in, whatever works for you. Grounding through the corners of your feet. Let your torso be wherever, or let your arms be wherever your torso is instead of trying to line up to the mat, because that might put you into a little bit of a twist. Drop the shoulders, open the chest. Work with those deep muscles in the hips. Okay. And you can see that just because we're doing our standing poses on a chair, it doesn't mean it's easier. It's just different, right? So bring your legs together and you can, bounce your legs. You can lean forward, whatever feels good to you. Just let your legs relax for a moment. Full breaths here. Okay, now come forward to the edge of the chair. If you kind of slid back a little bit, our right foot's going to be on the ground. We're going to pick up our left foot and put it on top of our right knee. So when we do this, it's important to not round the spine to come forward. You can keep your hands back and hold the chair so that you're really lifting through your chest and keeping the spine nice and long in this pose to stretch your hip. And then if your body is wanting to do this or ready and available, you can lean forward. But if you're trying to keep your spine nice and straight, maybe keep the hands on the chair. But if you're ready for some forwardness, try not to round the pelvis, try not to round the spine. Tip forward into an anterior tilt so you feel the front edge of the sit bones as you lengthen your spine forward. Your foot in the air, stretch through the big toe and the inner heel. Soften the shoulders. How's your breath? All right, let's go ahead and put that left leg over your right leg and lean forward. So don't round your spine. We're long in our spine. Just relaxing the hips. And then come out. Okay, between the two sides, open up your legs like a goddess. Put your hands on your knees or up in the air or anywhere you want to be. We're gonna tip forward. If you have your hands on your knees, just tip forward a teeny bit. Ground through the four corners of your feet. And then rise up again. And then bring the knees closer together, and we're going to open up our hips the other side. So now our right foot's on our left knee. Try to erase your inner ankle wrinkles. So stretch through your inner heel. Lift up through your spine. Maybe hands hold the chair behind you a bit. Anterior tilt to the pelvis. So be on the front edge of your sit bones. Lift the spine. Now you might notice, oh, this hip feels very different from my other hip. So just see where your body's at. Deep breaths. Perhaps you're coming forward. All right, and then relax and cross your thigh over your thigh. Give a little squeeze. So, we sit like this often, but instead of just kind of like laying your legs down, squeeze. So you get a little lymph squeeze, lengthen the spine and come forward. Long spine. I'm holding the back of the chair still, or not the back of the chair, but the sides of the chair. And then come on up. One more time. This one's a gentle, so we're going to lean forward if you want. Hands on knees and lengthen forward. We're just opening up our hips. Kind of like a very deep squat, and you can go as far as you want, really. All right, and then come back and just sit neutral for a moment. Ground, come to the front of your chair. Ground your feet. Feel into the neutral spine. So what if this is how you sat while you were in a chair when you were eating a meal, or when you were sitting on an airplane, or when you're sitting at your desk working, or even the way you drive? So, of course you don't have to be at the front edge of your chair all the time, but can you find just that you can be self-supporting even when you're sitting? Find the imaginary block between your thighs. Find the core of your teacups. And see if you can do this while still staying kind of relaxed, but we're not trying to pull the energy up into our throat and get tight. We're just trying to stabilize so that we're self-supporting. Imagine weight moving into your feet. Feel the groundedness. All right, and then let's come up to stand. We're still going to use the chair here for a moment. And make sure the chair is on the sticky mat. Okay, so you have a couple of choices. You can hold the back of your chair. You can hold the seat of your chair, one or the other. So dog pose on the chair. So you can be holding the front of your chair on the seat, the top rim of the chair, whatever feels good, whatever height is nice. Thigh bones back. Now take your feet a little wider, like to the edges of the mat wider. Let your hips relax. Thigh bones back. Feel elongation in your spine. So each vertebrae has so much room. Breathing well. Forward. I'm going to move my chair. So now I'm at the front edge of my chair. You can put a chair against a wall if you need to. And we're going to come like a plank. All right. So you might want a chair against a wall to do this if the sticky mat is not holding it. So integrate into a full plank here on your chair. You can hold the outside edges of the chair. You can hold the front of the chair or the back of the chair, whatever's stable. Breathing deeply. Now see what you might do to open up your thoracic spine here for an up dog. Open the chest. Find the breath. and then back to a dog pose. Take your feet hip width apart or wider, your choice. Go ahead and relax. We're going to come down onto our shins. And we're going to come towards child's pose. Hands are on the chair. Now, I like to do this one with a blanket because it bothers my elbows. I'm going to put my elbows on the chair. I'm in child's pose with my legs, and I'm going to drop my thumbs toward the spine. Now try not to collapse your armpits toward the ground. Lift underneath them. Breathe into the thoracic spine. Now, if your legs don't do this, if you can't bend this deeply in your arms or your legs, you can do this with standing with your elbows on the back of the chair or your elbows on a piece of furniture. Let's go ahead and relax. Okay, move the chair off to the side for a moment. We're going to use it for Shavasana, but for now, we'll just kind of hang out there with it off to the side. Let's go ahead and find child's pose. Relax your hips. Breathing deeply. Okay, now that was a lot of work for your outer hips, truly, a lot of work for your outer hips. So let's go ahead and find either reverse pigeon pose or pigeon pose. You can always go back and sit on the chair and repeat the figure 4 on the chair. That's a great option as well. So try to remember that pose. You know, if you're sitting at a desk on a computer for many hours in a day, sometimes sitting on your chair and doing that figure 4 pose, it's very similar to pigeon pose or reverse pigeon pose. So it can be a simple thing you can do through the day to kind of open up your hips. Okay, so your choice, pigeon pose, reverse pigeon pose, chair figure 4. Finding your breath. I didn't say which leg forward, so just whatever you're doing is great. Extend the spine. If you're in pigeon pose, relax your forehead on a block. If you're on your back, relax the back of your head on a block. Melt the shoulders, come back into your beautiful breath. If you're ready, we're going to switch sides. So go ahead and take your other leg forward, whichever leg that was. Find your way back into pigeon pose, reverse pigeon pose, or figure 4 on the chair. If you're in pigeon pose, once you get settled, go ahead and put your head on a block. If you're on your back, consciously let the weight of your head rest down into the floor. If you're in figure 4, keep your spine long. So all 3 poses, we're widening the sit bones and keeping ever so slight neutral to anterior tilt to the pelvis. So it might feel like you're in anterior tilt when you're neutral, because our tendency often is to kind of round our pelvis under. So see if you can open up the backside of the pelvis a little bit more. Breathe into your SI joints. Shoulders are relaxed. Go ahead and relax our way out of that pose. Okay, so we're going to sit now with our feet off to the right. Put a blanket underneath your left sit bone, and we're just going to twist to the side. You can lift your arm up first and find a twist here. Big breath. Back to center. And we're going to move over to the other side. Blanket underneath your right sit bone. Your feet are off to the left. Your left sit bone's kind of hanging down in that pocket, so we're not hiked off to the side like that. Bring your left arm up in the air. Bring your hand to the outside of the knee. So some people do this pose with their palm turned out, palm turned in. Whatever you're doing, just stay open across the collarbones. Drop weight into the left sit bone. Enjoy. You can experiment by twisting and counter twisting your neck. So turning all the way to the right or turning your head back to the left. Stay with the breath. All right, let's go ahead and come out of there and we're going to be down now on the ground. All right, so first, just neutral. Just neutral. Breathing well. Feet on the floor. When you're ready, grab a block, put it between your thighs. Just like we did in the beginning, let's repeat. So 4 corners of your feet are grounding down, a gentle hug of the block, and release. And maybe even put your hands low on your belly, kind of at your hip bones, so you can feel some of the work that's happening when you hug the block. Can you feel the psoas, the iliacus, the transverse abdominis kind of kick in along with the pelvic floor? As you hug the block, engage the pelvic floor, exhale. As you inhale, relax the block. And you can even start letting the pelvis move just a little bit. You can have just a sense of a little anterior tilt as you breathe in and a little posterior tilt as you hug the block and breathe out. Relax into the floor. And we're going to do a passive bridge pose, unless you really want to do it actively. Pelvis up on a block. Higher is not necessarily better. Sometimes a nice low block can be very nourishing. Just letting your SI joints kind of find middle ground again. Finding your breath. If you feel so inclined, you can stay put right here if this is a really happy place for you. Maybe you're on the ground and you haven't even put your pelvis up on a block. So you do you. Perhaps you want to bring your knees toward your chest. Perhaps you want to bring your legs up in the air. Perhaps you want to, just find anywhere along that pathway that feels good for your back. Okay. All right, so breathing well. Whatever feels nice for you. So I'm going to kind of hold the back of my knees because that's what feels good for my body right now. But you do what feels good for your body. Keep the spine as long as you can on the floor. So we're not picking up our head and really rounding the back. We're resting. If your legs are up in the air, can you feel the weight of your femur bones kind of grounding the pelvis? Come with our feet on the ground, and anything that you need to let your body come to a state of relaxation for child's pose. So if there's any other little bits of poses you need, do it. And then if you want, you don't have to do this, but if you want, you can have the chair there to put your legs up on for Shavasana. Now, once again, we're all not the same height, so you might need to stack up some blankets under the chair. You might need to put a blanket under your spine, under your whole back, so that you lift your body up so that you're closer to the chair if you're too short for the chair. And then, of course, you can ignore me and just do a regular Shavasana. This is very soothing for a lot of people's backs. And having a blanket on the chair helps you kind of stay a little grippy so that you're not sliding, especially if you have a metal folding chair. So have it so that your legs can kind of be in a very comfortable position. For me, that means my knees are a little bit wider than my hips, but for some people, very much neutral feels good. If you feel like you can't relax entirely, you can always grab a strap and tie your legs in with the strap. So you can tighten the strap across your thighs so that you have some counter resistance against your thighs. You can even put a block between your thighs and a strap on your outer thighs. So you do you. Once you get to a place that's really comfortable, find the sense of ease. Rest into the back of your body on the ground. Let the back of your head melt. Breathing deeply. Make sure you're warm. Let your arms rest. Allow there to be some weight into the pelvis and spine. Easy, steady breathing.
Begin to deepen your breathing. Rest your back on the floor. And as you are ready, you can push the chair away. You can bring your knees to your chest, whatever feels good to come off the chair if you still have your legs on it. And let's find our way onto your side. Rest here for a breath. And then bring yourself upright to sit. As you are ready, place your palms together to your heart. Take a big, full, deep breath and a long exhale. Let's offer our practice. Share your energy. Send your love and care where it is needed. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.